Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophia, pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking horse-centric concept. And today we're going to talk about the action. So humans, we domesticated horses, specifically like people from steppe, culture mountainous, culture nomads, right? The horse people. They was able to tame this otherwise a free running, definitely free range. Like you cannot cage them in. They are big animals and they're faster than humans. That was able to capture this force of nature, really, and become part of the human civilization, like part of the crew. Either participate in war or in construction, in transportation. So horses were defining an era of human civilization. And qi is this human horse interaction, I guess, one of the many ways to use horse, which is to ride on them. Qi, simplified and traditional, their differences on the horse icon, because in simplified version, around 1958, the CCP mainland China tried to spread out or try to increase the literacy, which is good. It's kind of a democracy of knowledge, or at least your language, right? So that by simplifying the language, it's easier, like more accessible for average person. So from that point of view, it's effective. It helped a lot because Chinese do contain each character is like a small frame of picture of something, and it takes a lot to memorize. I have to repeatedly write in 田字格, this box shape to brand, to ingrain until the way of writing until it becomes muscle memory. So takes a long time, lots of effort. So simplified Chinese helps in that way. But at the same time, by simplifying it, we lost some of the signals that I can read what the character is about. So in that sense, the traditional Chinese retain much of the information. And you can see the traditional compared with 2000 years ago's dictionary, they are way more similar. So in One Word a Day, I mostly read, like try to unpack of the older dictionary because it carries more information. It's more um, it's more continuous in the representation and abstraction of Chinese cultural perspective or linguistic solution to represent the world. And it's easier to explain in that way versus this is harder and it's more abstract. Okay, so horse, you can see in the 2000 years ago, you can count four legs and the tail and the mane of the horse. Like everything is like as realistic and simple at the same time as possible. It's a fine balance of how to what level. So I would compare it with modeling, like mathematical representation of the world. So this language have to choose the right um, simplicity versus complexity, have to have the right dial in between. So here we can tell it's still a horse, but we without overburdening us with extra information. So that's horse. And you can see here the simplified Chinese still retain the four legs in there by four drops. But this four dots, elongated dots, it's not positioned and it's not connected to the framework. So in that sense, it's easier to write, but it lost uh, much of the integrity of how this is a horse, right? This is kind of on the way of abstraction. To simplify it, it's even more. The four hooves is like just one line because it's a simple. And also the mane of the horse get lost. Okay, so that's horse on the left side. The right side is qi. Qi means odd. Qi means strange. Qi means outlier, something out of the norm. And the way I understand it is at the bottom is the stand of divine decoder. I call it a divine decoder. So ancient times, obviously, as the at the beginning of civilization, with like science, it was still not a thing yet. So we don't the way to try to figure out and try to predict what's going to happen so that you can pre-position your resources to make the decision before things are actually happening. Like that need has been in existence ever since the start, right? So this divine decoder serves as a function of to forecast. And the way they do it is with the mouse symbol, so verbal communication. Big horizontal line is represent the sky, the outer limit, our existence, outer boundaries, which you can regard it as the biosphere, like visibly biosphere. Everything under that, like under the sky, is a Chinese expression, means in the world that we know. And there is this puff of air from humans, from ground to the upper bound. So that's a human's way to communicate with divinity. And on the top is this huge, or not huge, the big concept. And we can view it almost like a starfish, a human figure, but at the same time, well, I decode it as this two sides, two things combined by this binder, this kind of curved down horizontal thing as a binder. So two pieces combined into one, that means it's bigger than the original individual pieces. So by that, Chinese give you the guarantee of this big actually means bigger than. It's in relative term. And because humans, we automatically comes in with our context, with our unset benchmark. So when we say something big, it's really between the speaker and the listener. Mutually, they're supposed to be agreed upon assumption about something that their benchmark sort of align. So when they say something is big, the sender and the receiver roughly get the same idea, but we know it's tricky. So this big is in relative term of it's double size of something, it's combined something, so something is bigger. So this divine decoding plus this concept of big, right? It's kind of a grand divine decoding effort, and that eventually lead to the concept of it's odd. It's like odd means it's not replicable, almost like it's a one-time thing, and it's on a grand scale. So, we can regard it as not the norm, it's particular. So probably back then, this divine decoder profession, if we regard it as profession, was something that's not everybody can do. They got to be specially trained. And if they can do it on a grand scale, meaning not only your local weather forecast, but if you can do a national forecast, I mean, national in the ancient terms sense of the known world, then that's even a smaller, the odds to be able to make to that divine decoder role is even smaller. So in any case, however we want to, arm, it's got a force armed this concept to try to connect the dots of the later day meaning of this qi, means odd, means strange, means an outlier, means extraordinary. All that sense of this character can sort of combine to this grander divine decoding effort. So that paired with horse, why it is right. My interpretation is riding a horse is a very personal thing. It's between the rider and the horse. There's a two beings trying to find out their way to connect and to develop this synergy. So this very individualistic and have to through, I guess, trial and error, except like when the rider gets more and more experienced, can read a horse better, so chance of successfully riding a horse, or the familiarity between a rider and a horse gets increased over time, so it's easier to synergize between the two beings. Um, then this odd and strange or individual sense with a horse makes sense on the riding behavior simply because it's not a regular thing and you have to really plug in to the horse, like the rider has to plug in to the horse, and it is almost like talk to nature, to the divinity, except that you have to communicate with the horse, um, almost like you're trying to communicate with the divinity, which is unknown. Like we don't really know how the divinity think or plan for us. So in a similar approach, so either it's out of the norm, it's not your usual thing, it's an individual thing, and also this communication with the divine, with nature, all that can be sort of making sense of why we create right concept with the horse, the ridee, right, and the rider's methodology, which is individual and it's odd and it's communicating with the unknown. Okay, the expressions of 骑马、骑车、骑虎难下, both starting with ride, but riding different things. So we start with this concept of ride with a horse. Of course, it has a horse next to it. And I guess, for humans, these days when we say ride something, ride the tide, even become an abstract thing, ride a trend, right? Ride a wave. All that, even this ride starts from humans ride the horse. At least in Chinese, that's the case. A ride the wind, right? So now we have all kinds of things to ride, right? Horse is a default version. And in contemporary living, ride a vehicle. There's a true, again, evolve through time, different contexts. It starts from this carrier or chariot that's war machine when it applies to war, or it can be a carriage, a card, a transportation thing. It depends on how you use it. It depends on application. But Chinese use the same character, 车, to represent that. And in contemporary, we have 车, 汽车. If it is gas-based, then it's car. But if we don't say anything, just say 骑 and 车, which type of vehicle do you think humans can ride on? We drive a car, right? So we say 开车 is this drive a car. But 骑车, it gotta be bicycle. So here, even if 车 exactly means 自行车, that's a Chinese way to translate velo or bike, that we skip the 自行 part and just use 骑 as the context for this type of vehicle. And then just by this action, everybody can figure out that it is the bike we're riding now. Not a horse, not a chariot, not a car, because those are less likely to happen. And it's not pairing the right pairing with this action. The way you can ride it, basically you have your two legs on the two sides of the vehicle. That's 骑. Horse and a bike straddle the same way for the rider. So it's the same action. And in today's context, it will be the bike. Okay, 骑虎难下 is a Chinese set expression to say you're right now, you're riding on a tiger. It's even something wilder and more dangerous, right? But you somehow mount yourself on there. It's a highly risky and uncertain, almost uncontrollable situation. But somehow you get on there. And then the result is 难下, hard to get off there, hard to get down from the tiger. So this expression is talking about you make some big progress or make some bold move that you'll get yourself into a situation that is really hard to track back, to redo, to disengage with the situation. Now you're in it. You are riding a tiger. So Chinese use that to mean you are really taking on something bigger than you're currently capable of. So that's 骑虎难下. Here we just showing the contemporary right action. Um, and that's what I love to do as well. And this is a writer in Atlas race, which is in Morocco. And I hope I can one day do that. All right, Qi, thank you for your time. See you another day.